mentioned as possible surge hospitals. Have arenas like Colonial Life Arena been contacted?
Everyone has been considered. We've had people volunteer. I think the plan that has been announced, I don't know if that includes any arenas at this point.
We are certainly looking at those. We've
Come
assessed to date 18 facilities around the state, and these facilities that have either been the owners or those that operate facilities either come forth and says these facilities would be available, or the facilities that the state has some type of operational control over. We look at each facility and we have to vet it against certain criteria. We're utilizing the Army Corps of Engineers, and they're doing this throughout the country now, but we're utilizing some guidelines that they have in place. We're using engineers from the Department of Transportation, from the National Guard, and from the State Guard. The facilities generally have to be ADA compliant. They have to have an adequate restrooms and shower facilities. However, we can contract and put those in place if that's necessary. They must have appropriate fire suppression systems. They must be free from lead and asbestos contamination, and generally all hotels that we are looking at that are built after 1990 meet that criteria. And they have to have emergency backup power. And we can also contract or have that type of resource made available. But we're working throughout the state. We're looking to have in each of those areas identified earlier at a minimum one tier 1 and one tier 2 facility, but we will certainly expand those as needed to accommodate what we believe may be spikes and surges, but we will look to see where we need those facilities built. We also have at our disposal basically hospital tents that are available to us. The state is contracting for 100 hospital bed tent, and through DHEC, they have other hospital tents that can help expand that capacity. That's a fairly quick turnaround that we can identify an area that may need some immediate assistance, and we could have that up and operational fairly quick. Any fixed facilities, we'll be working through the Corps of Engineers to determine what those needs are, and those will take the greatest lead time, so we'll be moving quickly to determine where those will be and get started on those facilities.
Who's going to staff these hospitals?
Did that answer your question?
Do you know if Colonial Life Arena is one of those that have volunteered?
I don't know specifically of Colonial Life, but we have had a number of facilities throughout the state that have offered up, and we will be conducting assessments throughout the state over the next few days to determine what our needs are and capabilities are based upon the plan.
Any more questions?
Yes,
from the
as a
general on
follow-up to
that?
the shuttered hospitals that you might reopen, which hospitals are we talking about, and will those be solely for the Tier 1 self-care, or how will they be used?
We have 4 facilities that were recently shut, or when I say recently, over the last few years. 2 of those facilities are not going to be available to us due to either having been repurposed or we found unacceptable levels of mold in one. The other 2 will be continued to be looked at, and no final decision at this point has been made on whether we will use that as part of this plan.
Can we say which 2?
Excuse me?
Which 2?
I think it's the Fairfield and the Marlboro that are still potentially on the table.
Any more questions from the general?
Yeah, who's going to staff these hospitals when they open up?
The staffing as identified by Dr. Cawley, all of this will be done within the framework of the current hospital system. Any support type needs that may be necessary to build up these external facilities, assets such as the National Guard could be available to help with that. We can contract some of those facilities or some of those capabilities as needed, but we will work within the framework primarily of the existing hospital systems for the actual care itself. The other support systems that are necessary to run a facility may be brought on by other capacities, the Guard or contracting.
Is the 3,500, that's a worst case scenario for the state?
That is a mid-range projection, and we will continue to look at projections each and every day as we look at that. And our system is scalable, and if you look at that number,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, a motion would be in order to return to regular session from executive session. And Madam Clerk, let the record reflect no action was taken in executive session.
Do I hear a motion? So moved, Goff. Second, folks. We have a motion and a second. Ask for the roll call.
Mike Folks,
Yay.
Tracy McDaniel,
Yay.
Clay Little,
Yay.
Lyman Dawkins,
Yay.
David Smith,
Yay.
Charles Backus.
Yay. Mr. McDaniel.
Mr. Chairman, pursuant to the feasibility period portion of the contract between the county and Cherokee County School District, I'd like to make a motion to terminate the contract between Cherokee County and the school district which pertains to the Bernard Middle School property, and further authorize the county administrator to notify the school district in writing that Cherokee County is exercising its right to terminate the contract with the Bernard Middle School property effective immediately. McDaniel.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? Second. Is there any discussion? With that, I ask for the roll call.
Mike Folks,
Yay.
Tracy McDaniel,
Yay.
Clay Little,
Yay.
Lyman Dawkins,
Yay.
David Smith,
Yay.
Charles Backus.
Read the motion, Doris.
Read the motion.
Mr. McDaniel, will you repeat that motion, please?
The motion says, I make a motion to terminate the contract between Cherokee County and the school district which pertains to the Bernard Middle School property, and further authorize the county administrator to notify the school district in writing that Cherokee County is exercising its right to terminate the contract for Bernard Middle School property effective immediately.
Yay.
Motion passes. Next, we'll hear from, Mr. Joe Mathis.
No report, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Administrator Steve Ray.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to give you an update tonight on the budget process. As you all know, this COVID-19 outbreak has really taken a lot of time from county staff, especially me. We've been dealing with this on a daily basis as things change almost daily. So as far as that relates to the budget, we are getting there. We are moving a little slower than what I would have hoped, but we are moving along. I do not have any projection yet as far as to when I will have that ready, but I am working on it. I just wanted to let you all know that. I was hoping we would have that thing passed this year by the early June, but I firmly believe it will be delayed and will be slightly behind that. I certainly hope we'll have it passed by June 30th. However, I just want to always keep all options on the table. If things go really south with this virus, that we could potentially operate on a continuing resolution. I don't anticipate that, but I just want you all to be aware that that is always an option. And I believe I'm correct that the state has already talked about that possibility also. So I just wanted to let you all know where I was on the budget as we move forward. The next item. I hope to have financials very soon, Mr. Mathis.
I was gonna ask Steve, I know you sent out the wish list, the wants and the needs. Do you intend on sitting down with these department heads in reference to, what you can and can't do in their wish list, right? Where they'll have an understanding, or have a better opportunity to get with you on the needs once you go to cut those lists. Sometimes you have department heads come back and say, well, we requested all this and never heard anything, and then it's cut out of our budget. Do you intend on meeting with all department heads prior to coming back with your recommendation?
Well, I have met with all the department heads and they presented their budgets to me and Mr. Leeser, our finance director at the time of that meeting, and that was done starting in mid-February and wrapped up by early March. Mr. Folks, you know, as we go through this, some of the decisions that of what I would recommend were made that day in those meetings. Told them some of those things at that time. However, there will be some that things that they expressed that they really need that we may or may not be able to do based on our revenue situation. And that's the other piece that's ever changing in this situation we're in right now. As you all know, the economy is taking a beating. That affects our local option sales tax, which is a huge portion of the revenues that come into the county government that are used to give a credit on property taxes, and also that we do utilize as part of our general fund budget. So, folks, if there's major findings or major things that I have led them to believe that they may get, then there may be some conversations between me and those department heads to let them know that we're just not going to be able to do so. Of course, you know, there's always going to be department heads who believe they need things, and unfortunately, because of the fact that we operate on a balanced budget and we don't deficit spend, we're not able to give everything every year. So we certainly want to, but that is a possibility, Mr. Folks.
Yeah, just as long as we communicate it properly.
Yes, sir.
Any more discussion on the budget? Charles, did you have something?
The only thing I say is there's no way, under the circumstances we're in now, will I vote for any tax increase.
Understood.
Noted, Mr. Mathis. Thank you.
Okay.
Next item I have is on COVID-19 effects on county operations. I've been trying to keep you all informed of changes that I've been making here at our building and that we've been implementing at the magistrate's office and the courthouse and all of our facilities. Just today we started with kind of alternating schedules here. So if there's 4 people in an office, we've changed it to where there's 2 people working at home on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and 2 people here, and then they alternate between Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Tuesday, Thursday, and next week we will switch. We did that simply to try to reduce our employees' exposure. I have asked them and reminded them that they're still on the clock even though they're working at home, so that's certainly what we expect, and if we call or whatever, then they certainly need to be available. And we've got several people who are working remotely who do not even need to come into our office. Our building inspectors are still out inspecting houses. Still a lot of construction going on, as Mr. McDaniel can certainly attest to. They're working totally off their iPads now. Our assessors are still out and about, so you'll see them out measuring property and so forth. And those are things, especially on the assessor side, they're not coming into close contact with one another. Our inspectors have been provided gloves. They've been offered masks. So at this point, all county services are still being offered. Now, some of those may be somewhat limited. We're not taking owner surrender animals at our animal shelter right now. We are still having stray pickup. We are still working with the Humane Society. They're offering adoptions. So we're still doing trash pickup. We've changed that somewhat, and we will no longer pick up trash that is not in the roll carts or not in the receptacles. I've had a little bit of feedback on that, but I think folks are going to get used to that.
I've got a couple calls about that, so I mean, just for boxes, anything.
No, sir, we won't pick up anything that's outside of the receptacle. We've sold quite a few roll carts, and of course, we're not in the selling roll cart business, and we sell those for right at what we pay for them, so we're not making money off of those, Mr. Smith, but that's related not only to the COVID-19 outbreak, but we've also had, since I've been here, 2 needle sticks, and I know there's been some in the past, so that's something that we needed to implement anyway, but we have certainly used this opportunity with COVID to implement that. Keep in mind, those guys do wear gloves. We're offering masks to them as well. So if the general public sees them out, they're accustomed to seeing them with gloves on, but you may see them out with masks on now. So that's just a precaution.
But going from this point forward, we're not gonna pick anything up outside
That would be my intention, Mr. Smith, that's correct. That will not end with COVID-19 ended. That is something that we need to continue doing, simply because of the risk that it imposes. And that's a pretty standard thing in the refuse pickup industry. We called Republic and talked to that, and they're our partners, of course, at our landfill, and they run a garbage pickup service also nationwide. And so I spoke with them, and they said that is their practice as well. Of course, you all, I don't know if you've seen or not, but just today, the governor issued a stay-at-home or work order. So we're going to take a look at that. I'll start looking at that tonight to see how that impacts us. But we are trying our best to continue to offer county services. And while we may have to limit some of those, we're trying to keep the doors open. There's a lot of false information out there that this building is closed. This building is not closed. You just have to have an appointment to come in, and we've got all the phone numbers on the front door. Same with the courthouse, same with the magistrate's office. Our landfill is still operational. Like I said, solid waste is still functioning. Roads and bridges is still functioning. We're moving forward. I don't know if you all saw, I sent out some information today. We had 2 more cases confirmed today by DHEC, so that brings our total up to 4. And I hate to be a bearer of bad news, but I believe that will only increase over the coming weeks, as it is for everyone. So I believe I saw today there was 187 new cases in the state today that were announced. So 2 of those were ours. And I have just did a press release today, and I'll just say it for you all also, that I just want to encourage our citizens to adhere to the CDC's recommendations and the governor's directives. We've seen there's been a lot of people out and about over the weekend, and I know you all have seen it, and you all have mentioned it to me, and I just want people just need to pay very close attention. This is a very serious situation. And the only way we've got right now to curtail it at all is to practice the social distancing and stay away from one another and stay home. So, but anyway, I just wanted to bring you all up to speed on where we are with that. As we make changes, I have tried to release that information to the media as quickly as possible. We have not laid anyone off at this point. Don't want to do that. We've had a couple of situations where we've sent an employee home because of possible relative that they're around, possible exposure, nothing that's actually turned up. I believe, in Spartanburg County, they had a situation?
Yeah, they closed the courthouse.
They closed the courthouse in Spartanburg today because they had a positive test there. So that's my fear, and we're working with our department heads on contingency plans if that happens. You'll see a decent-sized ad in the paper starting this week from our county auditor, county treasurer, and delinquent tax collector, trying to get the information out on how folks can pay their taxes and how they can apply for high mileage and various other things, trying to get the word out on that. So I know I've said a lot, but there's a lot going on with this. So have y'all got any questions for me regarding that?
Well, I want to say one thing, y'all, to reiterate to the public that's watching. I know a lot of people are at home cleaning up their houses and this, that, and other. If it does not fit in that trash can, it will not be picked up. So please don't try to put it all at the road, because if it's not in the can, it won't be picked up. I want everybody to be clear on that.
And we've actually got a flyer going out, hopefully tomorrow. Those will start being placed. We had not done that. We had ran it in the paper and so forth, but we just continued to get so many calls out at the office that we decided to go ahead and put a flyer, just like we do for holidays and so forth. So those will be put out, I hope, starting tomorrow.
Mr. Bratton, speaking of those ways, Mr. Little just talked about people cleaning up and that type of thing. Our landfill is still operating on normal hours of operation,
Yes, sir, it is.
so people can still bring their debris to the landfill.
They can. Now, again, we need to think about essential and non-essential and whether or not that's an essential service and what they're doing. Yes, sir, those hours are, is it 7 to 4:30? 7 to 4:30 daily. And then we have our convenience dumpsters outside that remain open till 7 for residential household garbage. But again, I want to encourage folks, if it's not essential, stay home. That's the best way we're going to beat this thing, so.
Any further discussion for Mr. Bratton? With that, we'll move on to next item, which is the bid opening 2020-18 recycling containers. This is funded by state grant.
Mr. Chairman, I've got 3 bids here. I'm going to open these. First bid is by Waste Equip. Their price for these is $30,024. This is for the dimension. We've got the specs in here for this, guys, and these are for the roll-off carts that we have at the. The roll-off carts that we've got at the. It's the ones that you find at the fire departments. Yeah.
How many do we?
That's for 4 roll-off carts.
Okay.
Next bid is from New Life Environmental. The price for 4 is $26,784. Finally, this third one is from Baker's Waste Equipment. Total price is $31,842.72.
We have these 3 bids. What's the pleasure of council?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I would ask that be remanded to Public Works Committee, so it gives us time to study the specs to be sure.